Hello and welcome to the Etsy Taxes and Finances Masterclass. I am Sarah Kornack of Evergold Accounting. Let me tell you a little bit more about myself. I have a BS in accounting and I worked in public accounting for many years. Then I kind of switched tracks and started dabbling in online business. I have run various Etsy shops, sold on Amazon, run websites, created ebooks. I've done all sorts of things. Right now, all of my energy is focused on my two websites. Smallbusinesssarah.com is where I have lots of great free tax and bookkeeping content for small business owners, specifically e-commerce small business owners, and a lot of my content is for Etsy sellers. You can also find a lot of free content on my YouTube channel, Small Business Sarah, or at Small Business Sarah. I have a lot of tutorials on there about using QuickBooks Online for e-commerce bookkeeping. The other business I have, or other website, is evergoldaccounting.com. And this is the bookkeeping agency for Small Business Sarah. So I have a lot of free information on how to DIY your own bookkeeping with my Small Business Sarah content. And then when you get big or you get tired of doing your own bookkeeping or it gets too complicated, then I have Evergold Accounting for that full service monthly bookkeeping where myself and my team, we do all the bookkeeping for you so you can focus on growing your business. If you would like a free small business startup checklist, you can follow the link there. And actually, a lot of the information covered in this class is found there in kind of a handy checklist format, so you can kind of go step by step on the business creation process. So when people begin to dabble in online business or creating a new Etsy shop, a lot of times they think that what they're doing is they start out thinking it's more just a hobby, and do I really need to register as a business? What amount of money do I have to make before I have to worry about the IRS? Questions like that. Well, the IRS, basically, they want money from the beginning. Whether you are a business or a hobby, the IRS does want you to report your income to them. And the dollar amount is, there's no dollar limit. As soon as you start making money, they want to know about it. They also have a list of questions you can ask yourself to figure out if you are operating as a business or a hobby. But some of the main questions to ask yourself are, do you carry on the activity in a business-like manner? And this is a big one. Does the time and effort you put into that activity indicate you plan to make a profit? You plan to make it profitable? And I think for most Etsy sellers, we would answer yes to that question. We are starting an Etsy shop because we want to make a profit and we want to earn income. And if you answer yes to that question, then you are a business. Even if you are a hobby, there's some disadvantages from staying a hobby. Like I said, you still have to report your income, but you can't take your expenses, or it's more difficult to take your expenses. So, I hate to break it to you, but you kind of just have to bite the bullet and register as a business once you open that Etsy shop. In addition, in 2023, Etsy will be required to issue 1099-Ks for shops earning $600 or more. In 2022, that limit is 20,000 or 200 transactions. They postponed the implementation of the new $600 to 2023. But even if you don't receive a 1099 from Etsy, and even if you earn less than $600, that doesn't mean you're not supposed to report your income to the IRS. They still want you to report your income. So if you just kind of get all your ducks in a row, if you get now, then when you get that 1099-K after 2023, you'll already be ready for it, and it won't be a big stressful thing. So from this point on, we're assuming you're a business, and here are the steps you need to take then. First, you need to choose a business formation. This is going to sound scary, but it's really not too bad. There's two main types. There's for small business owners. There's the sole proprietorship. That's basically where you are the business. Though they are one and the same. These are the easiest to form. They have very little paperwork and low fees. The other popular choice is the single member LLC. There's a little bit more involved in the formation of a single member LLC. Some states do charge an annual fee to LLCs. Not every state, but some do. The advantage of the single member LLC is it is a separate entity from yourself. So it does offer some legal protection, although that can vary by state. So the choice is really up to you. You can also start as one and change to another. One thing to keep in mind is these two business entity types are taxed in exactly the same way by the IRS, so there's no tax advantage of choosing one of these over the other. So after you have chosen your business formation, then you register your business with your state. Business formation actually happens at the state level, and I think this surprises a lot of people. Every state is going to be different in regards to what forms they want you to fill out, how much it costs to form your business, licenses that they may want you to have. And this is going to be the most difficult part of your business formation because every state is different. There are services out there that can help you with registration, although they can be expensive. And honestly, if you're willing to just dig around on your state's website, the Department of Revenue or the Department of State websites for your state, you should be able to find the forms that you need to fill out and then to file. So, digging around time or paying a lot of money to have a company do it for you. But either way, the main registration for your business is all at the state level. Like I said, this is the most difficult part. Once you get through this, the rest is a breeze. Surprisingly. So surprisingly, registering with the IRS is like a piece of cake. There's actually no initial registration required with the IRS for these entity types. At year end, you're going to be filing a Schedule C with the IRS for your business. I'm going to get into that in a little bit more detail later. And you literally just check a box on the Schedule C that says you're a new business when you file that first tax return. And that's it. Now the IRS knows that you're a business. So that part is at least easy. You can obtain an EIN number, an employer identification number if you want, but it's not required unless you have employees. So an EIN number, you can add that to your Etsy shop, and that's the entity that the 1099, or that's the number that the 1099K would be issued under, or you could do it under your Social Security number. So that's going to be up to you. Sometimes it's nice to have an EIN because then you're not giving out your Social Security number more frequently. Instead, you use the EIN number a lot in instances where you need some sort of registration, and it's either going to be your Social Security or your EIN. So that is up to you. Actually, the EIN number, you can just search on the IRS website. Filling out the form on the website is actually quite easy to get an EIN number, and they'll spit it out instantaneously. So once again, the IRS surprisingly easy in that regard. So let's talk about sales tax. First, we're going to talk about it specifically on Etsy. As of now, Etsy is now collecting and remitting sales tax to every state. This did not used to be the case years ago, but I'm not going to get into that. Right now, no matter what state you live in, and no matter where your customer is, what state they live in, Etsy is handling the sales tax. For the states that have a sales tax, there are a few states that don't. So this really makes the Etsy seller's job a lot easier. However, your state may still want you to have a sales tax license. It just depends. Once again, it depends on the state. So you need to find out. And if your state wants you to still have a license, they may still want you to submit a zero sales tax return quarterly or annually or whatever filing schedule they have you on. And you basically just report to them, this is how much money I made, but 0 sales tax is owed. It just depends on the state whether they want you to submit that 0 sales tax return or not. Once again, sales tax returns sound really tricky at first, but once you figure out the form and do it the first time, after that, it's going to be a piece of cake. So if you begin to sell off Etsy, that's when sales tax is going to get tricky for you. If you sell locally and your state has a sales tax, you need to collect and remit sales tax from those local sales. If you begin to sell on other platforms, for example, Shopify, then sales tax can get really crazy really fast. I'm not going to really get into this, but there's economic nexus rules that can create a situation where you need to collect sales tax from customers in other states and where you need to register with other states for their sales tax license and remit sales tax to them. And so, like I said, it gets crazy fast. So that's why there is a service that any clients of mine where they are selling on platforms like Shopify, we use a service called TaxJar. And it just makes it a lot easier. However, if you're just on Etsy, you don't have to worry about this stuff. But I'm just making you aware, once you move to platforms that are not marketplaces like Shopify, then you need to start paying attention to sales tax again. So I had mentioned the Schedule C earlier. This is the form that you're going to fill out for the IRS at the end of the year for your business taxes. Sole proprietorships and LLCs are pass-through entities. That means they're not filing their own tax return. The sales and the profit of your business, that's going to get combined and filed with your personal tax return via the Schedule C. So the year-end tax return that every person in America files is the 1040. The Schedule C is like an addendum to the 1040. It's an extra schedule that you have to include once you are a business owner, and it just gets tacked on with the rest of your regular 1040 tax return. So in essence, it's like your personal and your business taxes get combined. The Schedule C itself is not too hard to fill out. It's a 2-page form. Most of the information is on 1 page. If you've paid attention to bookkeeping during the year, and we'll get to that in a minute, it's going to be honestly a piece of cake to fill out because you'll have your numbers ready. You just drop them in. If you're using a tax program like TurboTax or something, it's going to just ask you for the figures. You plop them in. It gets calculated, and then you're done. So don't be scared by the Schedule C. It's really not that hard if you've been paying attention to bookkeeping throughout the year. So estimated taxes is also a question I get asked a lot. So as far as the IRS, I'm just going to cover the IRS here. What you don't want is you don't want to owe the IRS $1,000 or more when you file your taxes at year end. And like we just said, your business taxes have gotten mushed up with your personal. So the two impact each other. The goal is you don't want to be writing a check to the IRS for $1,000. You want to have paid enough to them throughout the year that you're not owing a bunch of money. It can be difficult to determine a precise percentage that you need to send the IRS throughout the year because the business is mixed in with your personal. And let's say you have a spouse who has a regular job and depending on how much they get withheld from work, that could affect if you need to contribute or send more money to the IRS or not. There's lots of different factors, all the credits that you might have and things of that nature. A good starting point to think about sending to the IRS is the self-employment tax of 15.3%. I mean, that's a tax because you're in business for yourself. So that's kind of a good place to start, but honestly, you're probably going to owe the IRS a little bit more than that. So the IRS actually makes paying their estimated taxes really easy, which this kind of cracks me up because they make it so easy to send them money. I don't know. Of course they do. This is an image of the IRS homepage, and you can see right on the homepage, it says make a payment. And this is just irs.gov. And the make a payment process is easy. You don't have to create login details. You just put in information from a prior year tax return. Like I said, it's personal tax return information. They can find you, and then you just make a payment. At the end of the year, you can kind of see how you did. Did we end up owing a lot? Did we not end up? Did we get a big refund? And then you can adjust how much you pay in estimated taxes for the next year. Okay, so that kind of covers a lot of the, let me go back, kind of covers a lot of the tax stuff and business formation stuff. You got to file the paperwork with your state. It's going to vary by state. You file the Schedule C at year end with your personal taxes, and you check that box that you're a new business. You make estimated tax payments throughout the year, starting at 15 or so percent, maybe up to 25-30%, just to be safe. And if you use a tax preparer, they can really guide you and help you in determining what those estimated tax payments should be. But before we can do our taxes at year end, we need to know our numbers. We need to do bookkeeping. So now we're going to talk about that. So in regard to your business finances, the most important thing is to open separate accounts. I can't stress this enough. It'll just make your life so much easier. And if you're a business, the IRS wants to see that you have your business money separate from your personal. If you get audited, the IRS is not going to be happy to see that you're mixing business and personal finances. So open up separate business accounts. These are two options. Checking with Relay, they have a really great checking option that's free and designed for online business owners. I actually have a review of their product on my YouTube channel. Capital One credit card, that's the one I use. I love it, good rewards. And actually I use checking with Relay as well. Those are affiliate links. If you don't want to go through those, no problem. Just look up, it's Relay Fi and then Capital One or whatever. Doesn't matter who you use. Just create those separate accounts for your business. Okay, bookkeeping. Also, sounds like a scary word, but it's really not too bad. Bookkeeping is not just for taxes. This is kind of like, I don't know, my accountant pet peeve, that people worry about their bookkeeping at tax time, but not the rest of the year. Bookkeeping is super important because it lets you know throughout the year how much money you're actually making. How can you improve the profitability of your business if you don't even know how much money you're actually making? You don't know what your expenses are. You don't know the total of your gross revenue or your net revenue or your net income. How can you make good decisions? So bookkeeping is super important. You got to keep track of the money you're bringing in, the money going out, so that you can make better financial decisions for your business. So here's some bookkeeping options. I do have a spreadsheet product that makes your Etsy, this is specifically for Etsy sellers, makes your Etsy bookkeeping a piece of cake. There's the link to it. It's on my Small Business Sarah Etsy shop. Basically, you just, and even if you don't have your personal and business finances separated, that'll be okay for this spreadsheet. It'll work even if that's not the case. But you just enter some numbers from Etsy at the end of the month, enter in any other expenses, things that you bought throughout the month, and then it generates a profit and loss report for you for that month and then for the year. And so you're going to be ready at year end. And as I mentioned at the beginning, I do have a lot of free content about how to DIY your bookkeeping with QuickBooks Online on my YouTube channel. So at Small Business Sarah, you can find, I actually have an Etsy playlist where you can find information on how to use QuickBooks Online for your Etsy bookkeeping. So that's kind of like the next level. So you've got the spreadsheet, which is kind of going to be your low cost initial option when you're first getting started. Then if you want to go to the DIY option, visit my YouTube channel. And then lastly, when you are just so sick and tired of doing your own bookkeeping, or you don't love it, or your business is just getting too profitable, you're getting pulled in too many directions, then it's time to hire a bookkeeper. So my company, Evergold Accounting, our bookkeepers are well trained in e-commerce bookkeeping and especially Etsy bookkeeping. And we offer done-for-you monthly bookkeeping. You get monthly financial reports. You're ready come tax time. And we basically, we offer you that peace of mind that your bookkeeping is done correctly and it's done timely, and you'll actually know how your business is doing. I have worked with a lot of people who thought that they were profitable, let's say, and it was a little bit eye-opening when they had their bookkeeping done for the first time that they weren't making as much money as they thought.